Hi, welcome to One Word a Day. I'm Sophie, your pilot into the universe of Chinese. We're going to continue our journey in discovering one more Chinese expression a day. Yesterday, we talked about 兴师问罪, which is overkill, but in the domestic domain, that typically wife finding fault as husband, but she scale up her capacity or caliber by mobilize an army of relatives and families of hers to accuse the husband. So that's they have war, domestic war, kind of like that. Today we have guilt again. Okay, so let's see the difference. We have a 罪. I translate here as fault. So fault is somebody else finding fault at you, most likely. I mean, we can find ourselves fault as well. But when we find fault at ourselves, the arrow is like finger pointing at ourselves, and most likely it's like this, right? This is 问罪. But this is the guilt. If the finger is pointing at yourself, it's the guilt you feel, like you're at fault of something. And today's expression is 罪有应得. Guilt, do, should, get. Okay. When I translate word by word, it almost like, what kind of language would say it like that, right? But when our brain does its magic rearranging of things, because we do receive information differently, like my Chinese brain, 罪有应得, it makes total sense to me. Like, if you have guilt, you deserve to get punishment, right? This punishment was not said, but the 罪有 is condition. Like, you confirm, it's positive, you're guilt. Yes, you have guilt. And then 应得 is you deserve to get this. So should get is simply English deserve, right? You deserve something. Punishment, supposedly. So 罪, again, yesterday I talked about Qin Shi Huang over 2,000 years ago. Changed the course of this particular character because the depiction of, the visual representation of 罪, original 罪, which came with this nose symbol that represents self-referral because of pointing finger at ourselves, mostly at our nose, right? We refer to ourselves as the nose part. And plus copper punishment, ancient copper punishment tool that connected these two words together. That means you're punishing yourself, like you're internally grilling yourself as if you were beating yourself up. So that's, still relatable, right? 2,000 years later, still relatable. When you feel guilt, your finger pointing at yourself and then you're torturing yourself mentally, or some people may go extreme, like physically punishing oneself. And that's how the language originally defined guilt. And because this character looks kind of like the emperor, a character that also have this top part, almost like a self-referral, except it means the sun, beaming the sun, the light out. But it has just very similar structure over there, can cause confusion. So the emperor said, I'm going to keep my word untouched that define the emperor and change out this word. Happened in history and recorded. Therefore, now today, thousands of years later, we are seeing guilt as such, but originally it means self-punishment. It's more like a guilt, not the fault. Fault could be somebody else or judge tell you're at fault or something, right? So the guilt here then become like the self part is gone. Here is a negation. This mirror image is a negation of reality. So one of them is true, the other one must be false. So there is a negation over there. And then this big net thing, we only use two crosses to show you the pattern of there. That's a net. So somebody did something wrong, and then it's nested in. Either it's captured in or it's caged in, like confined. So that's the visual definition. It still works, but it lost the part of you find yourself guilty, because probably the highest form of punishment is we do it to ourselves rather than, you know, the law or the emperor or your wife or husband, right? People find fault at you. It's not as painful as you find fault yourself. Probably, I don't know. It's up to personal experience and interpretation, but we lost the self part. We only have this negation, and then you're confined, this elements in there. Okay, but in any case here, this 罪有应得, I guess I intentionally translate it as 罪, as guilt, which is self find fault at oneself, right? But it could also be other people find fault with you. So the whole phrase can represent you feel like you deserve such kind of punishment when you treat it as a guilt, this character as a guilt, or it's somebody else find you are inexcusable, therefore you deserve whatever the consequences you're facing. Like somebody else is judging you as you are faulty. It's your wrongdoing. Therefore, you deserve something. So it could be both ways, because this character carry both way meanings. It's fault or guilt. Okay, 有, we have three finger hand symbol and this omega sign looking, two stripes sideways to depicting the texture of the meat. So the whole thing is meat. Hand holding meat. That's a major half in ancient society. Protein, right? So that's definition of 有, and eventually this 有 become affirmation, like positive, something you have. And so this is like you do have guilt. Probably I should translate as probably I should have translated as have, because guilt have, right? 罪有, like a confirming positive. Guilt too, you do have guilt. But originally, my Chinese brain read it as 有应得 instead of 罪有, the 有 defining 罪, following 罪. I was connecting this 有 with 应, like because 应 in this context means a should, and so 有应 is like a double should, confirming you do should deserve something, right? So I was looking at 有 in connection with 应, therefore translated as a affirmation, like a do. But in English, we don't really say do, should, right? We use do next to a regular verb, but not with this should, because should already serves as almost like a do's purpose, like a confirming the action does get, like a should get, right? It's like a do get. Both of them should describing this get. Anyways, we don't talk about English here. It's Chinese. Should came from a pretty complicated structure. Here is the heart symbol, chamber, 3 tubes. That's the anatomy of the heart. And then the side here is the bed frame, verticalized, because otherwise we'll take a lot of horizontal space. And in my mind, horizontal space is more expensive than vertical space. Therefore, let's crowd vertically, like stacking things up instead of spreading things out. So this bed frame over there, and this is the head stand of the bed. So the whole thing is bed. When you see a bed frame, that means somebody is sick. That person have to stay in bed when it's time to operating in the field, do the farming activity. So this is some illness over there. And then this is a human figure. And the right side is a bird symbol. So the bird symbol is another visual representation. This is the head of the bird, the beak of the bird. This is probably the torso of the bird, and the horizontal lines are the fluffy feathers of the bird going horizontally. We have a sheep depiction of a furs also going horizontally. And then this line is the feet. The feet aerodynamically tucked underneath and kind of going in a flowy way, right? So this is the direction the bird is flying, therefore it's tucked behind. So the bird symbol next to the person symbol in a bed frame, that means this person probably is sick and showing almost like a bird-like quality. I don't exactly know. We can only guess. And then paired with a heart symbol. So according to scholars, the later meaning, we can reverse engineer a little bit. So the later meaning of this phrase, this image over here, show means the rib cage or the chest, because we have another expression called 义愤填膺, like you're so angry that your chest is filled with anger, almost like anger is explosive, and you're like a balloon, kind of like that, right? And this yung is the rib cage that hold you, that you're not exploding yet. So this is because we have a rib cage, it cages in, right? And then we have a heart symbol attached to it. So it's kind of like your heart is within your rib cage. And probably that's how eventually the whole thing deduced into should, because your heart position is in your rib cage. And therefore, it's like that's where your heart belongs. That's the right location. Therefore, it's like you do what your heart is located at, kind of like a follow your heart, almost like you find your heart a home, something like that. I guess we can interpret it in a contemporary way of you follow your heart, right? And therefore, it's like you should do something. That's my imagination. Okay. 得 is, on the contrary, very explainable. We have the left side, this squiggly lines. It's 3 strokes. And because we have to stylize it, kind of connected. So eventually the third line, which was not supposed to touch the second line, got connected so that it becomes one entity, and only the third line kind of floating out on its own. So the language try to connect things together, right? So therefore you see it's a unit, it's one unit, it's not reduce the open orders and single floaters, so that we can see, okay, things are not lost, things are actually connected. That's my theory why it's connected, but originally it's a 3 strokes going this way, because this is the left footstep. We originally have the right side footstep, also 3 lines. So repeated, recurring patterns over there to show, it's left, right, your footsteps works like that. And eventually we don't need to show the right side, because of course we're not hopping. We have to have the right side. We're just not showing it. The left side is enough to show footsteps. So that means walking, at least it means walking, right? Footsteps still evidence of walking. And then the right side here, this circle with 2 horizontal lines plus this this kind of soft body thing. Okay, I can interpret it in 2 ways. Either it means see. So because this is the eyeball and this is a human, 2-legged human. So eyeball on a 2-legged human is a human see. So human see means human personal experience biased see, right? Or the second interpretation of that is it looks like a seashell with the soft body going out. So seashell back then was a currency, and therefore the seashell represent, contemporary, it's dollar, it's money, it's cash, right? So you do something, you gain cash. And then the bottom, the hand with a horizontal line pointing at the hand means measured, because this is the pulse reading ancient practice in doctor diagnostic practice. There's no machines back then. There was no machine. And then doctors have to touch over here to tell at least your heart rate, right? And also how strong your pulse is. And some doctors, experienced enough, was able to tell if person is pregnant or not, something like that. Pretty amazing, simple device just to touch 1 inch down from the wrist. This is a pulse point. And therefore this 3-finger hand symbol with this horizontal line pointing at this pulse reading position means it's measured. You don't go too close, you don't go too far away. It got to be the right spot for you to correctly read the signal of the pulse. So measured currency doing, that means you get rewarded, compensated for what you do with money. but things is measured. That means it's a fair exchange. You're not usurping people, or you get lowballed, right? Underpaid. It's a fair transaction. And that's what's defined as get. We also have a similar word that eventually the language merged them, like we don't really distinguish that much. But that word means you take the ear from your enemy after, you kill your enemy on the battlefield. You want to claim the reward afterwards if you've survived that war, right? And then ear cutting was a practice back then. So ear cutting, this ear belonged to somebody else. And because you killed him, supposedly, and therefore you were able to cut the ear. But this ear cutting, 取, this character means you receive. It's not a fair trade. It's you're getting something from someone else without your labor. But of course, it's a labor kind of like in a war era or time, like you're risking your lives in a battlefield to be able to kill or get killed, right? And the result of that is you kill, and therefore you are able to get it. But you definitely get it from somebody else that doesn't belong to you. The ear belong to somebody else. So that's the 取 definition. Versus here, 得 get is it's a fair trade, measured payment for your deeds. Okay, so 罪有应得 simply is you deserved, like you deserve to get punished because we have this guilt in there, right? So therefore, it's either it's guilt or fault because you're wrongdoing. Therefore, you deserve punishment or consequences. So in any case, I think English deserve can be both ways too. Deserve something good happening to you because you did good, or I don't know, you deserve something. I mean, deserve is super overused word in this day and age, 2023 in America, at least. Like why people feel they are deserving things. It's shocking how much people feel they deserve. But deserve can also go the downside. Like you did something wrong, you deserve the consequence. Like you made a wrong business decision, you deserve to go bankrupt. Can go either way, right? So I translate as deserve here, but actually because we have a 罪 here in Chinese, I didn't give the full context of that or translation. Deserved. In English, it's both ways, but in Chinese, 罪有应得 definitely means deserve to be punished. So Bullet Train, this movie I watched last night. I was still fresh on my mind, and therefore I use this to illustrate deserved, probably because this movie talks a little bit about karma, talks about luck, right? It seems like a lot of random things happening in life. In this case, it's assassins on the train condensed in this environment that's closed because it's a train, you cannot get off unless it stops, right? And this whole train full of assassins carry out all kinds of horrible deeds. And then there is this circulation of who deserve what, who deserve to live, who deserve to die, right? Who gets lucky or bad luck. All that was discussed in this movie. And I feel like maybe this is a good corresponding of 罪有应得. Cash into the currency of thinking about one day with Sophie. See you another day.